WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. Everyone knows my man Dennis Koulatsos joins us here each and every Thursday doing the SSV on WNST, as heard on Sunday mornings. And, Den, I've been following your Twitter. You've gotten a little bit more muscular on Twitter here the last couple weeks in the backside of the Ravens draft, right? You've been chatty with Ravens fans and whatnot, but I want to bring a topic up that has nothing to do that's like with your wheelhouse necessarily, in the fact that you love the MMA and you're watching hockey or watching basketball, or certainly your love of professional wrestling. And by the way, I found a 35-minute chat that I did with Jerry the King Lawler in 2003 that has never aired since then, that it's going to get recycled into my WrestleMania stuff. So I found all of this Preakness stuff. People are going to hear it this week. But I want to go off the beaten path a little bit with you this week on the Preakness, because I know one thing. You're at Coons Ford Security Boulevard, and every single day of your career out there. How many years you been out of Security Boulevard, Den?
14 years and counting, Nestor.
All right, and every day someone on your lot either loves racing, has loved racing, has gone to the Preakness, loves horses, whatever, right? Like, the horse racing industry, in re-listening to my interviews with Bob Ehrlich from 2002 and 3, that people are going to start to hear around here about horse racing, so much of it's industry-related, city-related, the slots, all of these things. And here we are yet again, 17 years later, after I talked to Gary Stevens and Bob Baffert and Kenny Mayne almost 20 years ago, and Joe DeFrancis, about what we were going to do about saving the race for Baltimore, and here we are again, man. And it really does bum me out after all these years. And look, neither you or I are huge horse racing people, right? Like, we talked about this, but as a community and for what it represents, it's one more thing leaving Baltimore or trying to leave Baltimore, and that is the reason I'm creating Baltimore Positive right now, because I really don't know what to do about it, but it really does make me start to ask the questions of, how do we get some sort of power back before we lose, let's say, the Inner Harbor, and they just suck all the water out of here too,
Yeah, that's the only thing left, or so it seems, Nestor. 144 Preakness this Saturday, and, you would know more than I would in terms of what Pinnacle has done for the community. I don't know how many people are employed by there. I don't know how many races they have a year.
Well, I mean, I've been to 30 Preaknesses, right? I mean, give or take.
Yeah.
Maybe it's only been 26 or whatever, but I mean, certainly more than 20. I mean, for sure.
But what does it mean to the local? How that money that they generate? I mean, I know that they should pay a good portion in taxes, and I think that's something that a lot of people miss. And not to get political, I know you're dabbing into politics a bit here lately, but
well, it is important because I've seen the city start to rot, and the tax base is what, hey, why aren't the potholes filled? Taxes. Why aren't the schools better? Taxes. Why isn't the trash off the street? Tax. But also the citizens. I mean, you know what I mean? The citizens are the one that throw the trash, and, all of that is a part of the stew. But when the baseball team looks empty, and we've already lost a football team, and we've already lost an NBA team here in the last half century, right? Now we're talking about the baseball team. We're about to lose a centerpiece, a sports jewel, the thing that happens after the Kentucky Derby. This week, the Kentucky Derby's winner's not coming, the loser's not coming, the controversy's coming, the race is coming, all the TV people are coming, and they're trying to kill the race and take it to Laurel. I mean, and I'm running Clem Florio, who's been dead 12 years, who will be rolling over if he heard these kind of conversations, wondering, like, why didn't you people save the race for the city? Why didn't we make it as great as we could have made it? Why didn't we embrace it like a Super Bowl? These are all things that I'm scratching my head about, saying, you know how hard it is to get something great like the Ravens, and then how hard it's going to be to keep it, right? How hard it is to keep something great.
Sure. Now, I read a headline a few weeks ago that said economic impact of Preakness Stakes in Baltimore would top $50 million annually. That's a lot of money to me, Nestor, and that's why, to me, you got to be able to make money in order to give back money. And our tax dollars, I mean, I get taxed to death. My organization gets taxed to death. But you know what? When I see roads being built and hospitals that are high quality and our education system in pockets anyway, seemingly getting better, that's what I like to see about our tax dollars. You need it for infrastructure, you need it for roads, you need it for bridges, and you're talking about a $52.7 million industry that could potentially be Baltimore. And that certainly gets my attention each and every time.
Well, okay, so we've been kicking this down the curb for, all of our lifetime, Dan, right? Like, what to do about the track. And when I run this piece with Ehrlich back to 2002, it was right before the election. He came in. I wasn't married yet, so some of the conversation may be a little more spicier one way or another. And, I stand behind whatever I said, even if it was stupid 20 years ago. But some of the conversation was about we were going to build this super track downtown. You remember all that? We were going to Ed Hale was trying to build an arena up in Timonium, right, where the racetrack is, right? We've talked about replacing the Baltimore Civic Center, now the Royal Farms Arena, forever, right? But what we did here, Den, in our lifetime, what Governor Schaefer did, Mayor Schaefer, we got a baseball stadium built because it was really, really important, right? And I don't even remember it being all that controversial, right? And then we went and stole the Cleveland Browns. John Moog and Paris Glendening and Governor Schaefer, they went and stole the Cleveland Browns, brought them in here. We turned them into the Ravens. We've had Ray Lewis. We've had Joe Flacco. We've had Terrell Suggs. We got Ed Reed this summer. We've had playoff games. We've had 2 parades. And the Orioles have done whatever they've done the last 25 years. The Ravens have done whatever they've done. And here is the Preakness, which is its own entity, and I don't know that these Magna folks have particularly done a particularly good job, over the last 25 years. Certainly they haven't put any of the money, the slots money, all of the gambling money that's become this honeypot that they've put into Laurel has been about taking the race out of Baltimore, and certainly I think we can all concur that the leadership we've had around here over the last 12 years has lacked some things. You know what I mean? Like, just in general, where we've been with mayors who have done corrupt things, period. The race has been like the least talked about thing, right? And I do sports for a living, right? And you're 5 miles from the track. I'm 5 miles from the track. Every year we go on this ride, right? This carousel. And every year it's May and we talk about it. And then it's June, and let's go to the beach, and it's 4th of July, and let's go to the fair, and then let's sell some cars, and let's do some radio, and let's do some sports, and hey, how about those Ravens? And gee, it'd be nice if the Orioles could get fixed, and boy, if the Terps could ever play football, and then it goes away, and then all of a sudden, like, it's May again, and here we are, right? And it's, man, the track's another year older, and boy, everybody's coming in, and isn't this a black eye? And boy, we got to do something about it, right? And it's 2019. It's 17 years since I sat down with Bob Ehrlich, and nothing's been done, really, right?
Well, Nestor, what I'm thinking of, because look, I've never been to the track, but then again, I didn't start playing golf until my 30s, so I never knock anything unless I've actually tried it. I know there's a lot of passionate people feel strongly about Pimlico, and I'm sure if Pimlico was to ever leave Baltimore, it would be akin to maybe the Colts leaving Baltimore back in '83. For those people that are all in, and
well, if the Preakness leaves, Pimlico leaves, because that would be the end, right? That
exactly.
They only race there, as little as they possibly can because the grandstand's falling in, right? I mean, according not just to the Canadian folks, but like the people that actually run the facility are like, yeah, we should not have people in here, right? I mean, this week is really where the thing's feeling really fractured to me. It feels like the earthquake's coming, right? And I'm down in the basement looking at the seismic meters and saying, there's an earthquake. Everybody knows this is sort of where the fault line is, and it's going to get political, it's going to get litigious, it's going to get all of that, right? But in the middle of this, there's a race here this week that really used to be something for this community. Whether you participated all the way, which, sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't, or some of the way or none of the way, it was a really good thing for our community. The Clydesdales would come, the crab races, we'd have bands, we'd have pretty girls, and we'd get dressed up, and you put a tie on, or go tie a load on. You know what I mean? I remember taking chicken out there when I was a teenager, and beer and bikinis and things that we can't talk about anymore, things that I'm probably not proud of anymore in the modern era. But for all of that, and for the Clem Florio conversations and these great races and these incredible memories, and it's something that stopped the world for a long, long time. Seabiscuit, the whole deal, Secretariat, the Triple Crown, Ronnie Franklin being from Dundalk, Sparrows Point, and running one of the winners, and my dear friend Bruce Scher and his family, and Aloma's Ruler, and all these local ties and local things that race would leave Baltimore. I've been talking about it my whole life, and honest to God, Den, I'm shocked it's still here, right? Like, to some degree. If the Orioles are going to continue to be run the way they've been run the last quarter of a century, it would be shocking to me if they're still here 20 years from now, right? And the race, do you remember the year? Well, first off, there was the year somebody tried to punch the horse, right? So that was a low light. There's the running of the urinals. That was not good, right? But there was the year way back 30 years ago where all the lights went off. The electricity grid went out, and you couldn't place a bat. Then that went on for much of the afternoon because the infrastructure, the wires in the track stopped working, and that was 30 years ago. So, it has this long list of problems, and no one has addressed any of it. And I guess that's where I am. We're with Baltimore Positive, or even with the Orioles. You and I sit and bitch about the Orioles, but there's another place you don't go. You don't go to Camden Yards anymore, but you and I, everybody, we've all paid for it, And all we want for it to be is great, right? We just want our city to be great. And I don't think we can be great when we're losing, really keystone parts of our community are starting to decay, and that's where I'm stepping into this Baltimore Positive thing, because I know one thing, 52 weeks from now, they're going to run a race called the Preakness. And looking in the rearview mirror and saying, what could we have done? I would hate to think that there's anything we could have done right now, right here, to make the thing great again and have the community embrace it the way Kentucky embraces the Derby,
Well, it just would be just another big nail in the coffin of Baltimore signature sporting event. I mean, what else does Baltimore have besides the Preakness? I mean, that's what we're known for when it comes to sports. Besides the Ravens and besides the Orioles, and you're talking about a 144-year tradition, part of the Triple Crown. And I can't imagine it leaving, but I guess the inner workings and got to follow the money. So where's the money telling us that this thing is going to go? It doesn't look like it's going to stay in Baltimore, does it?
No, it looks like it's going to go to Laurel, and it looks like that's where they want it to go. And it looks like to me this week when they're, firing people like me and telling me not to run their ads, literally. They told me, no, stop running our ads. We don't need our ads run in May. So, I'm running racing commentary here all week. I've reached out. In the middle of the night on Sunday night, I sent a bunch of texts out, and I got a lot of West Coast people. Bob Baffert's on the West Coast. First thing in the morning, I heard this literally my text this morning. Chris McCarron, Donna Brothers, Bob Baffert, Dick Girardi. It's all horse racing people here this morning that hit me back. Donna Brothers is going to be on. Bob Baffert's going to be on. Dick Girardi, John Eisenberg, Bill Cole, Ray Pollock. All these people. I'm going to be talking racing all week, but what can you say when the Kentucky Derby horse is not coming? The horse that actually won the race isn't coming. And we're trying to save the race, and they've declared half of the grandstand. They're going to keep showing that on TV, too. They're going to show the grandstand empty, literally, because it is it's a hazard. It's a bridge you can't drive over. Mm-hmm. Do you talk about a black eye for the city? Here we go, right? And I'm sure they're going to have no problem showing, riots and fires in the sky from 5 years ago. Somebody's got to step up and run a PR campaign to talk about what's good about Baltimore. You know why? Because I still live here and I love it here. No,
you and I both. And look, negativity sells, negative media sells. We all know that. People tend to focus on what's wrong versus what's right. And look, Baltimore needs a facelift. They've had some trouble with public officials. They've had trouble with security. The public has to feel safe. The public has to feel safe coming downtown, visiting the various restaurants and parks and the Inner Harbor and all the sporting events at M&T Bank and Camden Yards, and even at the arena, the Baltimore Arena. I still call it the Civic Center. I'm old school like you are.
Royal Farms is my sponsor, so I call it the Royal Farms Arena.
There you go.
Sorry about that. There you go.
You can correct me. That's fine. But my point, I don't have a problem going down there, but some people do, and because negativity does sell. But that infrastructure is important. And look, if you don't have infrastructure, things start falling apart. People can't get around. The decay starts setting in. So there's a lot of things that have to change here in a hurry for Baltimore City in particular.
And you know what? In a week like this, I'm glad you just pointed all that out, and I could, I'd almost like to rewind it and replay it, right? Infrastructure, schools, potholes, security, law, order, safety, the city, the things that are already standing, the things that are going to be here when these Canadians pull the race, all of this stuff, right, that's going on, and all of that supersedes, like, should we build a club level over, at Pimlico for the hoi polloi on a Saturday in May? It does become, should we give the Angelos family whatever they're going to want 2.5 years from now, because they're going to want a lot, to keep the baseball team here? Does it matter anymore? I mean, and these are conversations that are really difficult for me to have when I've built my entire life around sports and around the Preakness and around the Orioles and around sports and around the Ravens and around local colleges and around going to basketball games and hockey games and the value of sports. And you love it in the way that I love it. We all love it, but then we got to say who's going to pay for it. And that's where the rubber really meets the road, and that's where the hoofs meet the dirt this Saturday. Dan, man, I know you're doing your thing early this week. I know you're doing a little getaway. I know you won't be here on Thursday as regularly scheduled, but you'll be here on Sunday doing the thing on Monday this week, back regularly scheduled on Thursday. Anything you want to throw in about the Ravens or the Orioles? Because I didn't want to just keep it to racing with you this week.
Not a whole lot going on right now. Everybody's just chomping at the bit to get the season started. Everybody's speculating, but...
it's not going to come any sooner.
Lamar Jackson is still a very hot topic. You have the believers, the non-believers, and the hopers, right? People in the middle, and we certainly hope he takes the next step. But the Ravens are going to go as he goes. But no news is good news so far. Nobody's been in trouble. All the players are staying out of trouble. I guess the biggest news over the weekend was Joe Flacco's house is up for sale. $1.59 million gets you the old Flacco residence if you're interested.
Will I hear the echoes of all the kids screaming or no?
You may in those hallowed halls of the Flacco residence.
I'm going to text him that right now because that's a pretty good one. I think you'll get a chuckle at that too.
Yeah, but it really no great news there as far as the Ravens are concerned, which is nice this time of the year. Nobody's getting in trouble.
Yeah, let's keep it that way. I don't need any Instagram. I don't need any driving. No. I don't need any drinking. I don't need any, you kids get Uber, do all that. I saw Tony Jefferson running around South Florida and using vernacular on Instagram and Twitter that I certainly would never respond to or use, but hey, what do I know? I'm just a 50-year-old guy. Get off my lawn, Den. You know what I'm saying?
Tony's still a young guy. That's what people miss about Tony Jefferson. He's a veteran. I've been with us for a couple of years now, but he's very vocal on social media as Marlon Humphrey. They get along real well. I enjoy their back and forth banter. They keep things interesting on Twitter.
They keep me loose and young. What can I say? I'm trying to
hang out with young people. That's all.
Trying to do what all the kids are doing here, and they're not going to the racetrack this week, unfortunately. Dennis Koulatsos can be found at the SSV on WNST Monday this week, Thursday most weeks, Sundays every week here at WNST in the mornings, and of course throughout social media and debating Ravens fans. Luke woke up on the wrong side of bed earlier this week, and was now praising the secondary in deep depth, but wondering who's going to rush the quarterback. So I guess the next 5 months are going to be about who's going to rush the quarterback, right, Dan?
They have time to figure it out, and that's why they get paid the big bucks. They're not done yet. We'll see the June 1st cuts. Some veterans will be sure to be let go. Don't know what they'll be able to get out of those veterans, but I don't think they're done yet. They still have a little bit of cap money, a little bit of cap space. We'll see how they use it. I'm sure Eric DeCosta will use it very, very wisely, and it was nice to see them restructure some titles. Now we know that Oz Newsom is a new title, right? I think he's executive vice president, top of my head. So he's no longer the highest paid scout in the country.
Well, let's go have some fun here. Enjoy our springtime. Enjoy your travels and your fun and fishing and whatever you're into here. And we will continue to gather and discuss all things Baltimore and baseball and football and horse racing and lacrosse and whatever else we got going on. I was at Costas the other night in the Maryland Towson lacrosse game. People are crazy, man. People were shouting, screaming. Lacrosse has got them moving. You got NBA, a couple Game 7s, right? Hey, is that ball still rolling around or did it go through with Kawhi Leonard? Did it actually go through?
3 thumps and it went through. So it stopped rolling around, and Kawhi Leonard adds to his legacy for sure.
We've had some moments, haven't we? We've had some Game 7s. I mean, it's been a pretty exciting spring, even if you're on the wrong side as a Caps fan or an Islander, supporter or whatever. It has not lacked for that. Even had a big fight last week too, right? My man Dan Jacobs, right?
Big fight last week, absolutely. And Again, for me, I locked onto the Towson, Maryland game. I went to Towson, best 9 years of my life, and I have a lot of friends that went to Maryland, so it was a lot of fun. We lost 14-13 overtime. It was a great, great game. It was very, very well played, well coached. Hats off to both teams.
There were about a dozen Terps people and about a half a dozen Towson people, and there was a lot of screaming going on and a lot of red and yellow. And, in the end, peace will be had and lacrosse will be played and life will go on in the big city. Enjoy your weekend.
You too, sir. Thanks a lot.
Happy spring. There he is, Dennis Koulatsos. You can find him at the SSV on WNST. And, of course, our WNST Tech Service, always brought to you by our friends at Kuntz Ford of Security Boulevard. You can find me, Nasty, at WNST.net, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat. Lots of WNST Classic here this week. If you hear the voice of Bob Ehrlich, if you hear the voice of Clem Florio, if you hear the voice of Bob Baffert, or that might be live, Gary Stevens, that might be live. But I am running various period pieces to discuss, the history that we've had here with all things racing and Preakness and Pimlico. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports